So subaerial stem modifications are of 4 types. Subaerial stem modifications, they are 4 types. Of that, the first subaerial stem modification, that is nothing but runners. First subaerial stem modification, that is nothing but runners. In runners, what are the examples means? Of that, the first example, that is nothing but oxalis. And the second subaerial stem modification, that is nothing but underground stems. That is nothing but underground stems. Those are nothing but strawberry. Those are nothing but strawberry. And the second one, it is nothing but grasses. Second one, that is nothing but grasses shows runners. It is one of the subaerial stem modification. In your textbook, they given the explanation about the runners taking as oxalis as one of the example. In this oxalis, what happens means stem itself crawls over the ground. Stem itself creeps over the ground. Stem itself crawls over the ground. That means whether the stem is weak means here the stem is weak. Here the stem itself, it is weak. So that's why it crawls over the ground, or it creeps over the ground, or it runs over the ground. And what happens means it shows nodes. It is differentiated into nodes and internodes. This portion itself, it is nothing but nodes, and this portion itself, it is nothing but nodes. These are nothing but internodes. These are nothing but internodes. Can you tell me, can you say whether these internodes, whether they are arch-like structure means these internodes, they are bending like an arch. These internodes, they are bending like an arch. And what happens means from the base of the nodes, adventitious roots are developing. From the base of the nodes, which roots are developing means from the base of the nodes, adventitious roots are developing. From the base of the node, which roots are developing? Adventitious roots are developing. From the above part of from the above portion of the node, it shows leaves. It shows which one means it shows leaves are produced. It shows leaves are produced as in the same type of arrangement. These leaves are developing from the upper node of the stem. Leaves are developing from upper node of the stem. From the basal node of the stem, it shows adventitious roots. From the upper node of the stem, it shows leaves. Where this leaf shows longer petioles. Leaf shows longer petioles. Leaf itself, it is showing which type of petioles means it shows longer petioles. This runners, whether it plays an important role in vegetative propagation means it also plays an important role in vegetative propagation also. And what happens means due to any circumstances, if these internodes, if they are broken, due to any circumstances, if these internodes, if they are broken, and these broken parts, whether they develops into new individual plants means this broken part, these broken parts, they develops into new individual plants. They develops into new individual plants. That is nothing but it plays an important role in vegetative propagation. That means in these runners, if older parts, if they are going to be die means, whereas the younger parts, they can survive and they can place an important role in vegetative propagation. This is about the runners. This is about runners. Runners, what are the examples? One, it is nothing but oxalis. Second one, it is showing underground stems, that is nothing but strawberry and grasses. Here strawberry, it shows a fruit namely known as false fruit. It shows a fruit namely known as false fruit. That means a false fruit. What is meant by false fruit? False fruit, it develops from any part of the flower other than the ovary. This false fruit develops from any part of the flower. This false fruit develops from any part of the flower other than ovary. This type of fruit itself, it is nothing but false fruit. In this false fruit, which one develops into false fruit means that is nothing but thalamus develops into false fruit. That is nothing but thalamus develops into false fruit. Thalamus develops into which fruit? False fruit. And one more thing, always a false fruit shows combination with true fruit. That means in assertion, false fruit also shows. False fruit always shows true fruit. False fruit always shows which fruit here? True fruit. But whereas the true fruit may or may not shows false fruit. But what is the reason means? True fruit may or may not shows false fruit. True fruit may or may not shows which fruit here? False fruit. According to this option, what is that option means? Here A is right, R is right, but R is not correct explanation for A. A is right, R is right, R is not correct explanation for A. That is nothing but assertion and reasons. What is that assertion? False fruit always shows true fruit. False fruit, it is always combined with true fruit. Yes, it is one of the true character. But whereas the true fruit may or may not shows, that means all true fruits they does not shows false fruit. True fruit may or may not shows false fruit. That is also one of the right character, but it is not or is not correct explanation for A. That means in this strawberry, which one is a true fruit means Etario of Achenes is the, in this which one is the true fruit means Etario of Achenes. Etario of Achenes, it is nothing but a true fruit. It is nothing but which fruit here? True fruit. That means a false fruit shows combination with the true fruit. False fruit in strawberry, it is nothing but thalamus, but whereas in strawberry, what is a true fruit means? Etario of Achenes, it is one of the true fruit. It belongs to which family means strawberry? It belongs to the family namely known as Rosaceae family. It belongs to the family namely known as Rosaceae family. So this is about the explanation of runners. So we completed about this runners. Next goes to underground stem modification, that is nothing but stolons. That is nothing but which one means? That is nothing but stolons. Examples for stolons. One example, that is nothing but nerium. Another example, that is nothing but jasmine. In stolons, what is the example? That is nothing but nerium, that is nothing but nerium vodarum, and nothing but another example, that is nothing but jasmine. Before that, this nerium also shows an inflorescence. Nerium shows an inflorescence, that is nothing but cymose inflorescence. That is nothing but which inflorescence? Cymose inflorescence. That means it shows polycacial cyme. That means it shows which type of cymose inflorescence means polycacial cyme. And that one, another one, that is nothing but the jasmine. It shows simple cyme or cymeole. It shows a simple cyme or also called as cymeole. In the nerium inflorescence, that is cymose type, that is polycacial cyme. In jasmine inflorescence is cymose type, that is nothing but simple cyme or cymeole. But when we are coming towards inflorescence, there I will explain about this. Inflorescence cymose type, what is called as polycacial cyme. Jasmine, what is meant by simple cyme or cymeole. In this stolons, what happens means, see here, example we are taking as nerium. In the nerium, what happens means from the basal part of the stem, it shows root system. It shows root system. What happens means the branches which are developing from the basal part of the stem, the branches which are developing from the basal part of the stem. The branches which are developing from which part of the stem? Basal part of the stem. These branches, what happens means, these branches growing towards soil. These branches always growing towards soil and touches the soil, and again it becomes aerial. These branches which are growing from the base of the stem, these branches, they are growing towards soil, and once it touches the soil and again it becomes aerial. And these branches, where it touches the soil, it produces adventitious roots. These branches, where it touches the soil, it produces adventitious roots. Can we call this branch as a stolon? Yes, this branch itself, it is called as a stolon. That means in the Nerium and jasmine, all branches are called as stolons. No, it is not called as stolons. Which branches are called as stolons? The branches which are developing from the basal part of the stem, and that branches, they has to grow towards the soil, and once it touches the soil, again it becomes aerial. Where this branch, where it touches the soil, it produces adventitious roots, and complete this branch itself, it is called as stolon, and this stolon plays an important role in vegetative propagation. This stolons plays an important role in vegetative propagation. That means during any circumstances, if this branch is getting separated from the mother plant, during any circumstances, if this branch is getting separated from the mother plant, this stolon branch, it develops into, this stolon branch, it develops into individual plant. The stolon plants develops into which plant? Individual plant. That means it plays an important role in vegetative propagation. This is about stolons. Once again, stolons, what are the examples? Two examples, Nerium and jasmine. Nerium and jasmine, whether it is showing cymose type of inflorescence? Yes, it shows cymose type of inflorescence. In the Nerium, it shows polycacial cyme. Nerium, it shows polycacial cyme. In jasmine, it also shows simple cyme or cymule. And one more thing about Nerium. In the Nerium, what happens means it shows whole phyllotaxy. It shows whole phyllotaxy. In the Nerium, it shows which type of phyllotaxy? Whole phyllotaxy. That means from one node, how many leaves are arising means, think this one is the node. From one node, how many leaves are arising means 3 leaves are arising. One node, how many leaves are arising? 3 leaves are arising, which are present in circular manner, which are present in whorl-like manner towards one node. Can we call that one as whole phyllotaxy? Yes, it is called as whole phyllotaxy. That whole phyllotaxy itself, it is shown by Nerium plant. Itself, it is shown by Nerium plant. But whereas in polycacial cyme, from one node, how many branches are developing? That means it also shows how many branches developing at a time? 3 branches they are developing at a time. 3 branches they are developing at a time. This is about Nerium. And what about me? What I am saying means assertion and reasons. In this assertion, from one node of Nerium, shows whole phyllotaxy. Shows which type of phyllotaxy? Whole phyllotaxy. What is the reason means? Reason, from one node, 3 leaves are arising. 3 leaves are arising from one node. That means what is the option is correct means A is right, R is right, R is correct explanation for A. And what is the another assertion means? Another assertion here in the Nerium, it shows polycacial cyme. Nerium, it shows a polycacial cyme. In Nerium, it shows which type of cymose? In Nerium, it shows polycacial cyme. What is the reason means? In this reason, what happens means, from one node in polycacial cyme, 3 branches are arising at a time. So from in the Nerium, from one node, three branches develops at a time. Three branches develops at a time. In this, what is the option is correct means the same option, that is nothing but A is right, R is right, and R is correct explanation for A. And what happens in the jasmine? In jasmine, it shows simple cyme or cymule. What is meant by it is jasmine? It is also belonging to cymose inflorescence only. But what happens in jasmine means what is the definition for simple cyme or cymule means? Simple cyme or cymule, simple cyme or cymule. In simple cyme or cymule, what happens means it is nothing but two branched and three flowered inflorescence. It is nothing but how many branches it shows? Two branches. It shows how many flowers? Three flowers. Two branched, three flowered inflorescence itself, it is nothing but simple cyme or cymule. Whether here only branching occurs only one time? Yes. In this branching occurs only one time. In this branching occurs only one time. And what happens in this nerium and jasmine means the branches which are developing from the basal part of the stem, that branches they are growing towards soil and they are again becoming aerial. And where this branch, where it touches the soil, it produces adventitious roots. And this branch itself, it is nothing but stolon. During any circumstances, if this branch is broken, if the stolon, if it is getting separated from the mother plant, it develops into individual plant. The method of vegetative layering is completely depending upon which principle means stolon principle. Which principle it is? Stolon principle. What is meant by stolon principle means the method of vegetative layering is completely depending upon stolon principle. Within a shorter time, many plants are produced. Within a shorter time, many plants are produced. This is about stolons. So next goes to suckers. Third aerial stem modification, that is nothing but suckers. One, it is now, what is the examples means? One example, that is nothing but chrysanthemum. One example, that is nothing but chrysanthemum. And another example that is nothing but banana. Another example, that is nothing but which one? Banana. That means chrysanthemum and banana, it shows which type of subaerial stem modification means it shows suckers. It shows which type of a subaerial stem modification? That is nothing but suckers. And what happens here means, see, in this part of the stem grows, aerial part of the stem grows underground. This is the part of the stem grows aerial, and whereas part of the stem grows underground. Part of the stem grows underground. That means it shows root system. It shows root system. Now what happens means the branches which are not developing from the aerial part of the stem not called as suckers. The branches which are developing from the aerial part of the stem, they are not called as suckers. The branches which are developing from the underground stem, for some time it grows underground only. After some time they grows obliquely above the sunlight, above the soil. That means the branches which are developing from the underground part of the stem, these branches grows up to some time in underground only, and afterwards it becomes aerial, afterwards it becomes apogeotropical in manner, and these stems, these branches, they develops adventitious root from the node, and whereas these are nothing but leaves, leaves, and this branch itself it is called as suckers. That means all branches developing from the chrysanthemum and banana, they are not called as suckers. Which one are called as suckers means the branches which are developing from the underground part of the stem. These branches initially they grow in the soil and later it becomes aerial. That means whether they are growing obliquely towards sunlight. Yes, they are growing obliquely towards sunlight, and what happens means from the node area it produces adventitious roots, and what happens, this branch itself it is called as suckers. This branch itself it is called as suckers. During any circumstances, if this branch if it is getting separated from the mother plant, this sucker, this branch, it develops into an individual plant. It develops into individual plant. It develops into which plant? Individual plant. That means I explained about runners plays an important role in vegetative propagation. Explained about stolons which plays an important role in vegetative propagation, and now I explained about these suckers which also plays an important role in vegetative propagation. And one more thing, this banana. This banana shows which shaped suckers. It shows sword shaped suckers. It shows which shaped suckers means sword shaped suckers. Banana shows which shaped suckers? Sword shaped suckers can be seen only in banana but not in chrysanthemum. But not in chrysanthemum. And it also shows another example that is nothing but pineapple. And it also shows another example that is nothing but pineapple. This is about suckers. And next goes to offsets. What are the examples for offsets? One it is pistia. One it is pistia. And second one it is eichhornia. One it is pistia and the second one it is eichhornia. Now what happens means in pistia, I am taking example based upon pistia. In this pistia, stem is condensed into disc-like structure. Stem is condensed into disc-like structure. Stem is condensed into which structure? Disc-like structure. Now what happens if the stem, whether it is showing poor growth or whether it is showing excellent growth? That means here the stem shows poor growth. The stem shows which growth here? Poor growth. That means if the stem, if it is not condenses, gap between the nodes and internodes are very far from one and each other. But whereas here the stem is condensed, that means nodes and internodes are very closer to one and each other. Yes, nodes and internodes are very closer to one and each other in the condensed disc-like stem. That means if the stem, if it is condensed, leaves are developing from the nodes. No, whether that leaves, whether they are arranged in rosette manner. Yes, the leaves which are developing from the condensed stem, due to which nodes and internodes are very closer to one and each other, due to which that leaves are arranged in which manner means rosette manner. That leaves are arranged in which manner? Rosette manner. These leaves are arranged in which manner means rosette manner. Leaves are arranged in which manner? Rosette manner. And one more thing here we have to discuss. Each leaf it contains axil. That means this leaf it is also contains axil, where the axillary bud develops into one internodal branch. That axillary bud develops into one internodal branch. Axillary bud develops into one internodal branch. This one internodal branch itself it is called as offset. This one internodal branch itself it is called as offset. And what happens means here, towards the tip of the one internodal branch, it also shows rosette arrangement of leaves. Rosette arrangement of leaves. From the basal portion it shows the basal portion it shows adventitious roots. From the basal portion it shows which type of roots, Amma? From the basal portion it shows adventitious roots. The tip of the adventitious roots are covered by, the tips of the adventitious roots are covered by root caps or root pockets. These are covered by, that self it is called as root pockets. And can you call this one, whereas these roots in pistia, can we call that roots as balancing roots? Yes, these roots are called as balancing roots. These roots are called as which roots? Which roots here? Balancing roots. What is the function of balancing roots? Due to heavy water currents or due to aquatic animals, this plant may be tilted. In order to regain to its original position, which roots playing a key role means these balancing roots play a key role. These balancing roots, they play a key role. That means here one axil of pistia, one axil of a leaf belonging to pistia, one axil of leaf belonging to pistia is equal to one half set, no? Is equal to one half set. Why? Because from one leaf it shows one axil, it shows one axillary, but it develops into one internodal branch, that is nothing but half set. But whereas one pistia plant is equal to many half sets, no? Is equal to which one? Many half sets. Why? Because as pistia it shows numerous number of leaves. That means it shows numerous axils. That means it shows numerous axillary buds. That means it shows numerous one internodal branches, that is nothing but half sets, no? So this is about pistia. This is about which one here? Pistia. Now I am going to explain here. Pistia shows two modifications. Pistia shows how many modifications? Two modifications. Of that, first modification, that is nothing but aerial stem modification. What is that aerial stem modification in pistia? That is nothing but one internodal half set. This is nothing but the aerial stem modification. And whereas the second modification, that is nothing but root modification. What is the root modification? That is nothing but balancing roots. Root modification, that is nothing but which roots here? Balancing roots. And what is the third modification? Can you say here any leaf modification is shown here? Here leaf modification, that is, it is equal to, it does not show any leaf modification. That means pistia shows only two modifications. One, it is aerial stem modification, that is offset. Root modification, that is nothing but balancing roots. And root modification, that is nothing but balancing roots. And whereas this pistia, they does not shows leaf modification. And one more thing here, and whereas in another example, namely known as Eichhornia. Eichhornia shows how many modifications means? Three modifications. Eichhornia shows how many modifications? Three modifications. What are the three modifications means? One, that is nothing but aerial stem modification, that is nothing but half set. And second one, that is nothing but root modification, that is nothing but balancing roots. And the third modification, that is nothing but leaf modification, that is nothing but spongy swollen petiole. Spongy swollen petiole. Spongy swollen petiole. That means pistia shows only two modifications, but whereas Eichhornia shows three modifications. What is the difference between pistia and Eichhornia? It shows only one modification difference, that is nothing but leaf modification. Leaf modification, it does not shows any modification. But whereas in Eichhornia, it shows leaf modification, that is nothing but spongy swollen petiole. And one more thing here about Eichhornia. Eichhornia, whether it is one of the most, Eichhornia it is called as a weed plant. Eichhornia it is called as Eichhornia it is called as one of the most invasive weed plant. And this Eichhornia, can we call that one as terror of Bengal? Yes, Eichhornia it is called as terror of Bengal. Why it is called as terror of Bengal? Why? Because in freshwater areas, that means in the stagnant freshwater. In which water? Stagnant freshwater. Stagnant freshwater. In stagnant freshwater, what happens means the uppermost surface of the water is completely occupied by Eichhornia. It is completely occupied by Eichhornia. If it is developing in the stagnant water, means we cannot see the water itself also. Why? Because it is completely occupied by Eichhornia. Why? Because Eichhornia, it shows fastest vegetative reproduction. It shows fastest vegetative reproduction. As it shows fastest vegetative reproduction, within a shorter time, the complete watery surface, it is completely occupied by weed plant, that is nothing but Eichhornia plant, which is nothing but terror of Bengal, terror of Bengal. Why it is introduced into our country? It is introduced into our country just because of beautiful shapes of leaves, beautiful shapes of leaves, and because of beautiful flowers. Just because of beautiful shapes of leaves, just because of beautiful flowers, this Eichhornia was introduced into our country, as it is one of the invasive weed plant, where it is called as terror of Bengal. It shows fastest vegetative reproduction, due to which the stagnant freshwater, it is totally occupied by Eichhornia, due to which what happens here means this Eichhornia, they absorb all the oxygen present in the water. They absorb, what happens means this Eichhornia absorbs all oxygen. This absorbs all oxygen from water. It absorbs all oxygen from which one? Water. That means the fishes growing in the stagnant water, whether there the oxygen is available for fishes? No, due to which the fishes, they are undergoing death. There the fishes, they are undergoing death, due to which it is called as terror of Bengal. Why? Because in Bengal, the fishes are taken as vegetative food. It is not called as non-veg food. So that's why there the fishes are undergoing death just because of this Eichhornia. That's why it is called as terror of Bengal.